So, welcome to the seventh booster session of Mindful Wellbeing as a follow-up. It's been a while. It's been about 2 months since your last meeting, your last class, I believe, something like that. So, let's start with a pause. We often did that in class, so we'll start with just a 2 or 3 minute pause. And so just really kind of bring yourself into stillness as you're sitting and closing the eyes if you wish, although you don't have to. I mean, one way to kind of pause is you can keep the eyes open and look at the visual field and kind of take that in a mindful way as well. But whichever you choose, eyes closed or eyes slightly open. And I'm going to be quiet in a moment, but what I would say is just attend to your body. First of all, notice how your body is. Maybe check in with the body and just see how you're feeling. If you want to stretch her a little bit, if it feels right to stretch, that's good. And check in with your breath and check in with your thoughts and just how you're doing, how things are going for you today. So going to make this a little bit of a kind of a freestyle. So I'll be quiet, and for a moment or maybe for a minute or two, we'll just sort of do a silent check-in. You might also notice any sounds or really anything that come into your field of awareness, a body sensation or a thought. And if this seems a little bit open awareness in a way, you can always use the breath or your body as an anchor. So if you want, you can zero in, kind of zoom in on your breath and really feel the inflow and outflow of your breathing for a few cycles. Or you can feel your feet on the floor, your body in a chair. This is a way to anchor you and as a sort of a home base. So we'll just do that. You can either focus on your breath or your body for the last 30 seconds or so. Okay, and when you're ready, you can begin to open your eyes and get reacquainted with your surroundings and come back to the webinar. So I did that as a silent pause partially because, you can do that for yourself anytime, anywhere, just in silence, be still. I think there's a lot of value to that. And just notice what comes up. And there's lots of things that come into our field of awareness, sounds and thoughts and images, and there's lots going on there. Or like we did at the end, you can really anchor yourself with the breath or the body. So to kind of give you those options when we're just in silence. I think for most people, and I still do as myself, I do mostly guided meditations, but you can do just silent meditations for any length of time, really. That's perfectly fine, and it works well. A lot of people prefer that too. But let me ask you, like, how's it going for you? What's working? What's not working? Any questions or comments about your own practice? What would be helpful? Just let me open that up. Any thoughts about how it's going for you over the summer?
It would be helpful if I had you every morning for the first hour. I find it's tough because the workload just comes at me so fast, faster than I can keep up. So it's hard to be mindful to take breaks and do the meditation and all that. So, I find I try to listen to sounds, like I'm back in the office full time now, and I move my office.
Okay.
So I have a clock that ticks, and I love it because it's kind of just this steady ticking that it's kind of relaxing. It makes me feel more homey.
Yeah.
And at night when I have trouble sleeping, I think about my breath, and I listen to like relaxing music and concentrate my breath, and that helps me to fall asleep. So I try to just grab little moments like here and there during the day.
Well, that's great. And that's what's working for you now. And, you pointed out what's true for many of us. And that is when life gets really busy, it's harder to to carve out even just a couple of minutes. And, that is the challenge. So I would encourage you to keep trying to find some, even if it's like a little reminder, maybe it's the ticking of the clock. All of a sudden you're aware of, oh, there's that ticking again. Maybe I'll just take 3 conscious mindful breaths when I hear that, or every time I hear that, notification on your phone. Some little trigger like that can be helpful because it really can help to take these brief pauses. I'll talk about that in a minute and remind you of that. But all those things you're doing are great, and you're doing it with some music. That's kind of nice. And you're integrating it at home before you go to bed. I think a lot of people find it helpful to fall asleep or fall back asleep to kind of relax the mind. And the other thing I'll point out, part of the instruction I gave before was to bring awareness into your body. And that's really helpful because a lot of times, we realize that our mind is spinning, with so many things going on, especially when we are busy. And even if it's just pausing and sensing into the body for a minute to 3 or 4 minutes or whatever you can spare, really kind of helps slow down the mind and get out of the head and into the body. It's a great way to kind of bring yourself to presence. So anybody else want to share a little bit about how it's going?
So I am doing pretty much the same as Sue. I find myself at night is the best time for me to be mindful of my deep breaths and breathing. I also do it in the morning too, before I get out of bed, before the day even starts. So it's kind of like I end my day and I begin my day with the mindful of breathing. I mean, and that affects your muscles, at night it helps you to relax. So I feel at night it really helps me. But in the morning, it also helps me just to kind of rejuvenate and get ready for the day, so to speak.
Yeah, I like that. I find it helpful in the morning also some people do this in a variety of ways. They do that, like you said, when first waking up, and you can sort of make an intention for the day. That's something you can do. Maybe you intend to be focused and calm, or even though it's very busy, but making an intention or bringing to mind something that you're grateful for is another way to positively start a day, so you can integrate it with that. And I also like to do some mindful movement in the morning because, with my old body, I just more and more get so stiff in the morning. So I do some easy stretching, some kind of gentle yoga kind of things. And so it's not like a meditation where I'm sitting like, just focusing on the breath and all that, although you do bring the breath into it. But you know what I mean? So when you do the movement and you do some stretching, it really kind of, for me anyway, gets the blood flowing. I feel a little bit more flexible, and I'm kind of, and it only takes for me about 5 or 6 minutes. You could certainly do it longer, or you could do it shorter, but it's another great way to start the day. Okay, any other sharings or questions, or hey, what about this kind of thoughts? Well, so let's, I've got a bunch of kind of things to share with you. I have probably too much in the slides here, so I'm going to go over some of it kind of quickly, but as it is kind of a refresher of some of the things we covered in the 6 weeks. And I will send the slides out so that you'll have it, and I'll post the video, the videos. So if you want to listen to parts of it, or we'll do a meditation later. But so as you may decide you'd like to continue with the practice in a formal way. So remember, there's the formal sitting, body scan movement, or some informal way. And I think a lot of us are doing informal ways. But you might think about, what are some other times I can insert a mindful practice into, I don't know, lunchtime or breaks, or when you're walking or whatever. So I'm going to show you a bunch of those things as well. And you might want to just, as we go through this, remind yourself, or maybe jot down, oh, I'm going to give that a try tomorrow. This last point, mindfulness at work can be a challenge, which you've pointed out, and I know it is. It's not easy, especially if you're, back in the office and the pace is, really kind of a fast pace, and which is kind of too bad, because that's when we need it the most, right? Is we need, when it's really busy, even though it seems a whole lot harder to take 10 minutes, just see if you could take 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. And even if you said to yourself, okay, I'm just going to do a minute, and even time yourself and see what happens. You might find, well, I'm kind of getting into this, and maybe I'll do 2 minutes or 3 minutes. That counts. I have a quote on this in a minute, but it's more about the frequency rather than, you would think it would be about the quality, but it's really more about the quantity and the frequency with which we do these things. So, but just the point that, anything that we can do to kind of tap into a blissful state of mind amidst that, chaotic, hectic life is helpful. And I think what I've learned from other students in the class is that people really do find other ways to do it. So it might mean, when you're, looking at your phone and you're looking at a photo of your kid or grandkid or your pet, or, something like that. Those little ways that we find, these little pleasurable moments where you can pause and savor and find a peaceful spot in your day, can make a difference if you sprinkle them in throughout the day. So just to remind you of the power of pausing, really can make a difference. And these are some things that we talked about, just conscious deep breathing, or the 3 breaths for a pause. If you remember, we did that. It's a full breath, focusing on the breath itself. You can do this right along with me if you want. So full breath, feel the breath in and out of the body. Another full breath, feel the body itself. Feel your posture. How is the body? What does the body need? And then the third, final breath is, again, full breath. And then remember to be kind to yourself. Remember to take care of yourself. Remember to do some nice things to replenish. And that will help you with your energy and your focus. So that's 3 breaths. I think the other thing that really is kind of important, and don't forget this, is that hand washing, Purelling, any kind of routine activity, remember, these are great opportunities to stop and pause and just pay attention to what you're doing while you're doing it, rather than let the mind go off on autopilot. That can make the big difference. That stop, sense, and appreciate and go, that's kind of the same thing as savoring a good experience, or stopping to smell the roses, remember. And remember the stop, so we'll have the stop sign there, but the stop is, S is the stop when you're feeling a bit stressed. T is to take a deep breath. O is to observe internally. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's going on in the body? And P is proceed. And even just that quick act, they call it a 1-minute breathing space, is just a simple way. You wouldn't think that it makes a big difference just pausing like that. That could even be done in 30 seconds. But it does turn the attention inward. And that's really kind of what we're doing here, is we're really just simply checking in with ourselves in a mindful way, really paying attention, stopping the autopilot from carrying us forth. And then again, those are the just reminder about routine activities. There's so many different routine activities we do that we can bring mindful presence to. So try to continue doing some of those. That will help and support your regular practice. Then, of course, there's mindful eating. This slide has a couple of links. There's a mindful chocolate exercise, a mindful raisin exercise. If you haven't tried one of these, they're kind of fun. And, just a lot of reminders about, eating, which we do, of course, every day, several times, and sometimes even more, that we can, really take that time and just eat, or at least reduce the amount of other things, the multitasking. I know we feel like we need to multitask all day long just to get stuff done. And probably a lot of you work right through lunch. And, what does that do for your overall digestion? What does that do for your peace of mind, So, just even while you're making a cup of coffee, smell the coffee, feel the warmth of the coffee or the tea. Pay attention while you're doing it. These kinds of ways are just paying attention as you go through the day. And especially, I think eating is important. Now, I don't know, and I'm curious, but remember these attitudes. These attitudes are really helpful. And so I think the biggest one is patience with yourself, kindness also, and all four of them: acceptance of what you meet in the moment, and non-judging. And so often we get into a frame of mind where we judge ourselves and we say, well, I'm not doing it right, or I'm not doing it enough. I'm not doing it. Oh yeah, I remember I was supposed to do this, blah, 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 blah. Well, try to let go of that. It's not about doing this perfectly. Remember, it's about doing it in a way that will be helpful to you. So if you find yourself being critical of your practice or anything that you're doing while you're trying this stuff, notice that, acknowledge it, and let it go. Doesn't really help. See if you could just be kind to yourself, be a friend to yourself, just give yourself credit for the practice that you are doing. And this is a good quote to kind of like emphasizes some of the stuff we talk about. So again, from Sharon Salzberg, often people think, I don't have the right kind of mindfulness or the right level of concentration. Progress is not about levels, it's about frequency. If we can remember to be mindful, if we can add more moments of mindfulness, that makes all the difference. So kind of what I was saying before. And I think this second paragraph is so important. Countless times we lose mindfulness. We all do that. We do this, no matter how much time, how much you meditate, we still lose mindfulness. The day carries us away and we become lost in reaction or disconnected from what's happening in the moment. But the moment we recognize that we lost mindfulness, we've already regained it. That recognition is its essence, and we can begin again. That's really the key. When you begin to notice throughout the day, oh, there it was. I was really lost in thought there. I was thinking about something from long ago, or I was projecting ahead about what the heck is going to happen to travel plans and what the heck is going to happen with the vaccinations. There's so many things that, make us lost in thought, right? As soon as you realize that, and as soon as you go, oh, wow, I was really time traveling there, boom, that's the moment when you're back, you're aware, and you can take a breath, and you don't even, it helps if you do something mindful at that point, but just that noticing in itself is really the point that brings us back. I like Mona Lisa to throw her in just to remind you to be kind to yourselves. That's such an important thing. We're not doing this to make it one more thing that we have to do, one more thing that I'm going to get down on myself for not doing. Just bring that half smile to your face, and you can include that in a meditation or a informal practice as well. Remember, even just smiling to ourselves sends a signal to the nervous system to relax. It can help lower the blood pressure. It can really actually settle, especially if you've gotten triggered by a stress reaction. Little smile to the self, a couple of deep breaths, that can really help. Now, this one here, I'm not going to show the video now because it's a 20-minute video, I think. But even if you watch those 4 minutes from the 2.5-minute mark to the 6.5-minute mark, and Tara Brach talks about the different types of happiness, and that, we are often happy contingent upon certain things. We're happy when we have a good meal or a great conversation with somebody close to us, or a good belly laugh with somebody, or some positive experience, right? But what she talks about also is this kind of another level of happiness and she calls it happiness for no reason at all. And I can't promise you this, or I can't guarantee, but what I can say is that if you do build your practice so that it's a regular practice, whatever that means to you, daily-ish, okay, you'll find a different level of acceptance and contentment. And it really can help to support that. So I don't know, I found it personally, and it's not there all the time. Of course, life does get in the way, and we all have troubles. I'm not saying we're ever going to escape that, but it can help our overall foundation of being able to accept things a little bit more, to be grateful a little bit more. So watch that video. It's really it's very good. And then Jack Kornfield, another good instructor. We need to remember that where we are going is here. That's really the whole point, right? That any practice is simply a means to open our heart to what is in front of us. Where we already are is the path and the goal. So that's kind of Zen-like, isn't it? So one of those sort of Zen things, like, oh yeah, it's like it's that the way that I take this is, it's not like there's not any special skill involved here. It's really quite simple, but it is hard to do. It's hard to make it a regular practice. But his point is that any practice, like I said, and even just being aware of getting lost in thought, and then, oh, there I am, and catching yourself, or bringing it to other things, other hobbies, cooking, gardening, exercise, music, stuff like that. I did a bike trip recently. We were talking about this before. I just did it this past weekend. Pretty long trip, and I made it my sort of bike retreat. And I tried to just, now I wasn't meditating, closing my eyes on the bike. That would be kind of dumb. But you can bring that level of awareness to what you're doing so that you're really paying attention to everything that's happening right in the moment. And that's what I'm talking about. That's Not that you do that 100% of the time, but you can build that in. So just kind of realize that it's not all about meditation. It just will naturally kind of surface. And of course, the practice does help for that to happen, but just keep at it is my point. Walking is another example. Try this if you're not doing it already as you're walking to a meeting or you're walking to the car or to get the groceries or whatever it is. Just try for 20 steps, paying attention to the act of walking and the feeling of it and the touch and the placement and the lifting of the feet. Just another simple way to bring yourself home to presence. And then the stretching, we talked about that a little bit. There are some great videos. Some people don't like to sit and close their eyes and be still and meditate. Movement, stretching, gentle yoga are different ways for people to do that. So let me just pause here. Does this making sense to you? I mean, give me a little bit of feedback here. Are you finding yourself doing some of these things kind of as a way, as maybe a byproduct of the class? What do you think?
I find myself doing that. Like after work, instead of taking the shuttle bus, I'll walk to my car and pay attention to the birds and the smell.
Right.
Yeah, I think we do this without even realizing it, to be honest with you.
Well, that's why I wanted to make the point. So,
Yeah.
so you do it without realizing it. Now start to realize it.
Right.
Now start to pay attention. Oh, I am paying attention to the birds. What I did on my bike was really simple. Just to start off, I said, I'm just going to pay attention to flowers. Every time I see a flower, that's going to be my reminder to be mindful in that moment. That brings me back to presence. Because when you're on a bike, your mind really can time travel. If you're exercising or walking, right? Any of that can be. It's easy to do that. And then I started listening to bird song, and then any other crickets, and then of course there's a lot of cars, so car sounds, truck sounds, those kinds of things. So visually, what do I see? What do I hear? Then what do I feel? I feel the breeze. I feel my feet on the pedals. I feel the movement of the bike. So those are just different ways to, as we go through a life, as ways to kind of bring it home. Jennifer, how about you? I see you just unmuted, or did you know? You there, Jen?
I'm here. I try to catch myself and focus on what I'm doing, especially if even sometimes when I'm washing dishes, I look outside because my neighbor has horses, and then I'll become more aware of the present moment and things like that. But I do try to bring myself back to the present quite a bit during the day.
Good. Excellent. So, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but we're a small group, so I figured I'd just check in with you.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. And that's, so build on that. Still, I think it's important to do some formal practice. But now, I want to kind of remind you that, well, what gets in the way? Well, our mind gets in the way usually. we have these thoughts. We have these things that we mull over, and why did I say this, or why did they say that to me, and then blah blah blah, And so the first quote: "We're not troubled by things, but by the opinions we have about things." And it can really build up so that what it feels like this poor fella here with the huge burdensome thought cloud on top of his shoulders. And that's, our minds really can do that. And so the act of being aware of when we get lost in thought, or when we ruminate or obsess about things, that can build up and be very burdensome. So the second quote by Viktor Frankl: "Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. And that's really what the stress thing is all about. So when we get triggered by stress, we have this automatic conditioned response, usually fueled by fight or flight. And what we realize with these mindful techniques is that we do have even a millisecond of awareness that we can, oh, wait a second now, I have a choice here in the moment to respond a little differently. And that's really where, I don't know if you remember, but I think I said in the beginning of the class that, this is not just about relaxing and decompressing and calming ourselves down. Yes, very helpful for that, but it's also about having insight into our thought patterns and into our emotions. Usually thoughts and emotions are very closely linked. So, that's kind of the interesting part, I think, about some of this, is that we begin to learn more about ourselves, the internal workings of the mind, and the emotions as well. And so emotions can sometimes more easily carry us away. And if you recall, there is a meditation on emotions on that page, on our meditation page. So keep that in mind. There's one on thoughts, there's one on emotions. I think the one on thoughts is a great place to start. The one on emotions is another good one. I'm going to do the meditation today. We'll kind of touch on that a little bit. And then I put this up here because, when we get these cumulative thoughts and emotions piling up on us, and they can, especially if there's something that's sort of stressful for us, or really something that we really care about, that's when it can get to be a little overwhelming. And we can learn to take the weight off by doing a meditation, by releasing it in a sense, by noticing what our thought patterns are. Now, there is actually a meditation called that. So I just want to remind you that this slide here has a couple of things. Our website has the guided meditations. That's a link to it. Anybody using any of the apps, Insight Timer or 10% Happier, or somebody just told me about one today called Shine, and it's actually it's a women-run app and service, and she said it's very good. It has some great stuff on it. A lot of them do have the one level, free level of meditations, and then they sometimes encourage you to buy up. Insight Timer actually is, I think, still the most robust one. It has something like 100,000 free meditations. It's all grouped. It's pretty cool. You can really sort through it pretty easily. And you can even create your own playlist now on there. And you can bookmark favorites. There's lots of ways that you can use it as a free service. Podcasts, there's some great podcasts out there. I put a lot of the classes on YouTube, so there's a link there with all of these, and that's where this will go too when I get it up there posted. And then also just to remind you about the phone meditations. We're still doing those 5 days a week. I'm thinking about changing this a little bit. I don't know, do any of you, do you do the phone meditations at all?
I haven't.
No. Well, keep them in mind. These are available at specific times. As you can see, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2. They're only 10 minutes. They're a great way to pause in the middle of the day and, take this meditation break. The blue box here, this is a recorded line, so you can call that anytime. 3 recorded options on there. So these are just different ways to easily access different meditations. So I want to do a meditation with you, but this first slide here is a link to something called Choiceless Awareness. And I just wanted to point this out as it's a little bit more advanced, and it's by this particular one by John Kabat-Zinn. And if you want to listen to this later, you can do that by just clicking the link. But remember in the beginning when we took the moment of silence, so it's a little bit like that, where you start the meditation and you focus on the breath like we often do, and you also are aware of the body, feelings in the body, the way the body is, whether there's tension. And then you can broaden out, you can be aware of sounds, you can be aware of thoughts, mental activity, emotions. And so what the practice with choiceless awareness is, you sort of build up to this point where you're just openly aware of anything that arises in your awareness. So you just sort of keep your senses wide open, and you sort of, whatever arises, could be a thought or an itch, a body sensation, or something, an emotional response, or a sound, whatever comes, you just let it come, you notice it, you kind of get a little curious about it, you pay attention to it, and then you notice that it just naturally dissolves and dissipates. And then the next thing comes up. You can always go back to your breath or your body as an anchor, but then you just keep open and you just notice what happens next. And it's kind of an interesting way, sort of like what we did in the beginning, to be choicelessly aware. So you might want to try that. But today's meditation, I wanted to do something a little bit different, sort of a combination of, it's a Jack Kornfield meditation called The Space of Awareness. Also some from the, I think I mentioned to you, there's a really nice podcast called Meditative Story. And if you haven't checked that out, if you like podcasts, it's really kind of cool, I think. They combine immersive storytelling with mindfulness prompts. So you listen to a story, it's usually only about 15 minutes long, and they're usually by celebrities or kind of well-known people. And they tell a story about some personal aspect of their life, something that, meant a lot to them. So they're very fascinating. But then they stop and they say, okay, now how are you feeling about what was said? Notice, check in with your body, check in with your breath. And then they usually have a short little meditation at the end. So it's really a great way to combine meditative concepts into this storytelling. So Meditative Story. So I'll use some of that as well. So anyway, let's do the meditation, and I'll stop talking about it. Actually do it. I think it'll last about 10 minutes, okay? So just sitting quietly, letting the body be however it wants to be. And noticing how you've naturally settled into a comfortable position. The body already knowing what it needs to do. And maybe allowing yourself to smile a tiny smile. And making the decision that there's no need to give any more attention to anything else than what is happening right now. And acknowledging that this simple act of listening to the meditation is an act of kindness to yourself. And letting that smile be a reflection of that. Now become aware of your whole body as it is here. There's no need to pay attention to any particular part. Instead, just letting your mind and your awareness spread out to feel the whole sense of the body. Being aware of the whole body from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes and everything in between. We spend so much time of the day stuck in our head, and this is an opportunity to do the opposite and rest with the body. So letting your awareness fill the whole of the body. Now, with our awareness now a little bit established, let's invite the breath to the party. And taking as much time as you need to notice where in the body you can most feel the movements of the breath. This is likely to be in the chest or the belly as they move up and down, or at the nose and the nostrils as the air flows in and out. Just take some time to feel the breath wherever it is. Now that you've found the breath, let's connect like we did before with the body. And this is where we bring them together. What we do is invite the breath into the whole of the body. Instead of feeling the movements of the breath in one particular place, making the decision to feel them in the whole of the body. From the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Feeling the breath everywhere. Letting the breath be everywhere. Marrying the feeling of the breath with that of the whole body. All the body included. All the body welcome. Taking your time, there's no rush. The whole body breathing in, the whole body breathing out. Keeping a quiet smile if that helps. And enjoying the sensations of this technique and letting the breath be however it needs to be. Whole body breathing. And just notice with this stream of thoughts that may come and go, emotions, things that pop up, I like this or not, or judgments or words or images or memories. And that's okay. That's just part of what arises, right? But here's the trick. The body, the breath, the feelings, the thoughts, they come and go like waves in the ocean. Who you are is the space of awareness, like the sky that feels the body breathing, that notices emotions arising and passing, or the pictures and the words and the thoughts like clouds coming into the space of awareness. Relax into openness as if your mind is the sky and all your experiences are arising and passing like clouds in the vast space of your open mind. And rest in this open, living awareness. Relax into it. And if at any time this open awareness and this spacious awareness, you get to feel a little adrift, you can always return to the breath. You can always return to the body with that anchor that's always there. Feel the breath, feel your body where you're sitting, feel your feet on the floor. There's a way to reconnect. And before we close, maybe just taking a moment to check in with yourself and noticing how this all feels. What's going on now with the breath and the body and the thoughts and the mood. Just checking in with yourself. And if you'd like, perhaps making an intention to bring this quality of awareness with you to the next activities of your day. And so in a moment, I'm going to ring a bell, and that'll signify the end of the meditation. And you can slowly and gradually open the eyes and return to where you're sitting and reacquaint yourself with your surroundings. Okay, so thank you for your practice. That was a little bit of space of awareness from Jack Kornfield again. We kind of really saw how that we can realize that the space of awareness is really vast, and the experiences that we normally experience during the day of thoughts and emotions and body sensations are kind of like sort of clouds passing through, but who we are is this large, expansive space of awareness. So anyway, what did you think? Any reactions or thoughts about that meditation?
I enjoyed that. I thought it was very helpful.
Good. But any other thoughts, comments?
I have a question, but I have not done one of the telephone meditations yet, and I just took down the information. Is it similar to what we just did?
Yeah, I mean, they're slightly different every day. I do most of them, but sometimes I have help from my colleague Vivian and Tom. They do some I'm not in. But yeah, they're 10 minutes. Usually we try to start within a minute, and then usually the meditation is 9 or 10 minutes itself. And but usually they're pretty similar to that. Yes.
Okay, because I'm gonna try to start participating in some of those. I think that will
Good.
help me to get my noon portion of mindfulness.
There you go. Yeah, midday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Good.
Thank
Hope
you.
you can join us. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So that one was, it gets a little spacey in a sense, and is in a way kind of related to what I was telling you about with the Choiceless Awareness one, where it's more open and you're just sort of letting things come and go. Whereas, when we first learned it, it's really more about focusing on the breath itself and feeling that, and that's our way, that's our main anchor. But as you can see, there's different levels of doing that. So, just wanted to give you a taste of something a little bit different. John Kabat-Zinn, some suggestions for daily practice. He has written a couple of things. I think I can't remember if I sent this before, but anyway, there's a couple of nice handouts on cultivating a daily practice. And this is kind of really what I was talking about before, trying to notice this, like you said, I think we kind of do this, we're just not always aware of it. So try to realize that you're doing that a little bit more. And that's that moment of mindfulness. Note what's on your mind, and if you're no longer in touch with your breath, without judgment or criticism. That's really important. Just let that part of your awareness, or let that be part of your awareness in the moment, and feature once again the breath and the body center stage in the field of awareness, and repeat a few million times.
That's funny.
I love the last point too. Remember, the real meditation is your life and how you inhabit it moment by moment. Because that's really kind of what we're talking about and what we're trying to get to here. It's doing that in a way that it really kind of naturally arises. I'm getting all these notifications. Sorry if you hear that pinging. But again, he makes a point also, it takes a lot of practice, but you have lots of moments and we can treat each one as a new beginning. So remember, if you ever get to a point you go, oh, like I really lost touch with this, or I haven't been doing it for, maybe you go on vacation and your routine changes. Well, it doesn't really matter because it's almost like riding a bike. I mean, you can keep doing it as you start again back. It's a fresh new moment. It's a new beginning. And that's perfectly fine. So good way to kind of refresh. And that's really what you guys are doing here today. So I appreciate that. I just include this cartoon because I always like it. It's just a reminder. We're trying to be mindful like the dog, just being clear, looking at what's in front of us, not mindful like the man on the walk, thinking of all the worries and stresses and strains. So that's what happens when our mind goes on autopilot. But when we pay attention and we're mindful, we can be more like the dog. So again, here are all the links. Hopefully you know how to get to that page, but there's a lot of different meditations on that page on our EFR website. And so you'll have them too, just as a reminder. So that's it for our refresher booster session. Any last questions or anything you need or anything I can help with to support you in your practice?
No, I started reading the book, Permission to Feel.
Oh, good.
Yeah, 'cause that was in one of the slides that you had sent us.
Okay.
So it's really a good book. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a very good book. Yeah, I mean, that's another great way. Readings, podcasts. Of course, I'm interested in a lot of this stuff. So, but I get like a lot of newsletters from, like Tara Brach has a newsletter. I think that Center for Emotional Intelligence has one, but they're all over the place. But to me, that's another way to kind of, do a little reading on something, or I'll listen to an audio, or I'll listen to a new meditation. That's another way to kind of rekindle your practice. So lots of different ways. Just keep it going, keep it moving in that direction, and you'll be good. Anything else? Well, thanks so much again for being here today. Appreciate it. I'm sorry we had a smaller group, but appreciate your attendance, and wishing you a great rest of your day. And let me know if there's anything you need. I'm always available if I can help in any way.
Thank you, Bud.
Thank you.